Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into a topic that's getting a lot of buzz. Master of Science programs in Singapore. You know, it's way more than just those awesome hawker centers and crazy cool buildings is drawing people in. Singapore is like becoming this huge global education hub. We've got a whole bunch of articles and expert opinions and even some real student stories that we're going to deep dive into that all point to why Singapore is like the place to be for anyone who wants to seriously level up their learning game. So get ready to discover what makes studying in Singapore so unique. We'll uncover which universities really stand out, and most importantly, how you can actually make this dream a reality.
What's really interesting is Singapore's not just trying to be another study destination. It's like aiming to be the global education hub. Consultants like Kelvin Tan are saying it's this unique combo of academic excellence and direct links to industries that really sets Singapore apart.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's like they're bridging the gap between what you learn in the classroom and what's happening in the real world.
Exactly. And with Asia becoming like this huge economic force, an MS from a top Singaporean university isn't just a degree. It's a passport to a ton of opportunities.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just hitting the books, right? It's about being part of this whole dynamic ecosystem. Now, I noticed our sources keep mentioning three universities that seem to be the stars of the show. The National University of Singapore, NUS Nanyang Technological University, NTU, and Singapore Management University, SMU. What makes these ones stand out?
Well, NUS consistently ranks among the top universities worldwide, and they've got a seriously impressive range of MS programs. But their strengths really lie in fields like computer science engineering and that increasingly in-demand world of business analytics.
Gotcha.
Then there's NTU, which is known for its research-driven approach. Think cutting-edge labs, innovative projects, especially in fields like engineering and data science.
So those areas where Singapore is really pushing the boundaries.
Exactly, making NTU a fantastic choice if you want to be at the forefront of those industries. And for those interested in the business world, there's SMU. They're all about that practical, hands-on approach. So you're not just stuck in theory land. You're getting real-world experience that preps you for leadership roles.
So there's a university to match everyone's passions. That's fantastic. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What does it actually take to get into these top-tier programs?
Well, generally, you'll need a solid foundation with a bachelor's degree and a good GPA, usually around 3.0 or higher.
Makes sense. They want to see you can handle the academic heat.
Right. And since English is the main language of instruction, proving you've got strong English skills is a must. Usually that means taking exams like IELTS or TOEFL.
Okay, standard stuff so far. But our sources also mention GRE or GMAT scores,
Yeah.
the dreaded standardized tests.
Yes, those often come into play, but the specific requirements really depend on the program. My advice, don't just assume you need them. Head straight to the university websites to get the latest info on what each program requires.
So do your homework. Make sure you tick all the boxes. But let's talk about the big question that's probably on everyone's mind, the cost. Singapore has this rep for being a bit pricey, so what's the financial reality of pursuing an MS there?
You're not wrong. Singapore can be a pretty big investment with tuition fees ranging from around $20,000 to $50,000 per year, depending on the university and the program. And of course, that doesn't even include living expenses like accommodation, food, transportation, and all that.
Okay, yeah, it's a pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah.
But I'm sensing some good news coming our way. Our sources also mention scholarships, which could be a total game changer.
Absolutely. Before you let the costs scare you away, remember there are some incredible scholarship opportunities out there specifically for international students.
Okay, tell me more.
One standout option is the Singa Award. It's a fully funded scholarship offered by the Singaporean government. Imagine having your tuition fees, monthly stipend, even travel allowances all covered.
Wow, that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Are there other options too?
Definitely. There are ASEAN scholarships, which, just to clarify, are specifically for students from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And each university has its own range of grants and financial aid programs, too. So don't let the initial cost discourage you. There are ways to make it work.
That's reassuring. It's like you're saying don't let finances be the barrier to your dream. So let's fast forward. You've graduated with this shiny new MS degree from a top Singaporean university. What happens next?
That's where things get really exciting.
I'm all ears.
Singapore actually has a system to help talented grads like you stay and contribute to their booming economy. It's called the Long-Term Visit Pass, or LTVP.
Okay, so what's the LTVP all about?
It basically lets MS grads stay in Singapore for a year to look for work. It gives you this amazing opportunity to tap into their thriving job market, especially in fields like data science, finance, and technology.
I remember education advisor Mir Rajang saying how an MS in Singapore opens doors to super lucrative opportunities in Asia's financial and tech sectors. It's not just about the education right, it's about setting yourself up for a globally competitive career.
Exactly. It's strategic.
Okay, this is all starting to sound like a real possibility, not just a far-off dream. But what's it really like to actually navigate this whole path? Our sources highlight the journeys of three students, A.K. Shea Patel Sinha Gowda and Rahul Hij, who all made it to Singapore with the help of LetzStudy. What struck me is how different their backgrounds and aspirations are, showing that this is achievable for people from all walks of life.
What's interesting about their stories is that they really highlight the human element behind these processes that can seem so complex.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive into the stories in more detail. Take A.K. Shea, for instance.
Absolutely. So A.K. Shea's story really stood out to me. He's from Bellagio, and he was like super focused on getting an MS in computer science. He had, big dreams, but kind of felt lost in that whole application process, especially with like writing a good statement of purpose and figuring out scholarships and all that. But Let's Study really helped him out, guiding him through every step. And he ended up getting into the National University of Singapore and US, which is a huge deal, and even getting some financial aid.
That's so awesome. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the whole process, but A.K. Shea's story shows you can totally overcome those hurdles.
Yeah, and what's cool is that Let's Study didn't just give him like generic advice. They helped him tailor his application to really highlight his strengths and what he wants to achieve. That personalized touch is really key when you're aiming for top universities like NUS.
It's like having a mentor in your corner, helping you navigate that whole maze of applications and scholarships.
Exactly. And that's where Sinha Gowda's story comes in. She's from Mysore and was determined to get that MS in business analytics. But she had a different challenge, choosing the right university that fit her budget and her career goals.
That's a tough one, especially when you think about the cost of living in Singapore. It's not just about getting accepted, it's about finding the perfect fit, right?
Right. And Let's Study helped Sinha narrow down her choices, prep for the IELTS exam, and even figure out the whole education loan thing. She ended up at Singapore Management University, SMU, with a 20% tuition fee reduction.
That's amazing. It shows that with the right guidance and support, you can make it happen, even if finances are a bit of a worry.
Absolutely. And then there's Rahul Hedges' story, which highlights another common challenge, that financial burden of studying abroad. He was really passionate about data science and had his heart set on Singapore, but the costs were a major concern.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, especially for a world-class education in a place known for its high cost of living.
Let's Study really came through for Rahul. They helped him apply for tons of scholarships. And get this, he got a full tuition fee reimbursement from the Singaporean government. They even helped him with finding a place to live and sorting out his visa, so the whole transition was smooth and stress-free.
Wow, that's going above and beyond. Rahul's story proves that those financial barriers, while scary, can be overcome with the right resources and support.
It's about knowing where to look and having someone guide you through it all.
These stories are seriously inspiring, but let's shift gears a bit. I'm curious about something our sources keep saying. It's important to choose the right MS program, not just any program. It's not one size fits all. So what are some things to think about when you're trying to pick from all these options?
You're right. It's all about finding the program that really aligns with your passions and goals. I always tell students to start by researching the top universities in their specific field of study.
So if you're into computer science, NUS and NTU are good choices. But if you're more into business analytics, SMU might be a better fit.
Exactly. You got to match your academic interest with what each university is known for. It's like you wouldn't go to culinary school to study astrophysics, right?
Makes total sense. But let's say you've done your research, you've narrowed down your choices, and you're ready to tackle those applications. What's the secret to a standout application? I'm guessing it's more than just good grades.
Grades are important, but they're just the starting point. What really makes you stand out is showing off your unique strengths, experiences, and why you're motivated. That's where the statement of purpose, or SOP, comes in.
Oh, the infamous SOP. I've heard stories of students spending hours and hours agonizing over this thing.
It's your chance to tell your story, why this program, why this university, why you're the perfect fit. You want to highlight your achievements, your research interests, your experiences, and how it all connects to your goals. It's like your personal pitch to the admissions committee.
So it's not just listing your accomplishments, it's weaving them into a story that shows your passion and potential.
Exactly. You want to show that you're not just academically capable, but you're a driven person with a clear vision who wants to contribute to the field.
Okay, so a killer SOP is key. But our sources also mention strong. Letters of recommendation. Why are those so important?
Think about it. The admissions committee wants to get a complete picture of you as a candidate. Your grades and test scores tell one side of the story, but allures give them insights into your abilities and character from people who know you well, like professors or mentors.
So it's like getting endorsements from people who can vouch for your skills and potential.
Right, they can talk about your work ethic, your critical thinking, your ability to work with others, stuff that grades alone can't really show.
I'm sensing a theme here. Preparation is key. Whether it's acing those standardized tests, writing a killer SOP, or getting awesome LORs, it's all about putting in the effort.
Absolutely. It shows you're serious about this and willing to go the extra mile.
But even with all that prep, the whole international application thing can feel overwhelming. Are there resources out there to help students with this process?
That's where organizations like LetzStudy can be super helpful. Remember those student success stories we talked about? They all had guidance from LetzStudy, from picking a university to applying for visas. It's like having a personal Sherpa guiding you through the whole journey.
It takes out the guesswork and gives you that personalized support every step of the way. Okay, picture this. You've aced your exams, poured your heart into your application, and boom, you get that acceptance letter. Excitement's through the roof. But then reality hits. You're moving to Singapore. What about the logistics? Where do you even start?
Take a deep breath. It's a lot to take in, but our sources offer some practical tips to help you with this transition.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the first big thing?
First things first, the student visa. You won't get far without that. Once you have your offer letter, you need to apply for a student pass through the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority ICA of Singapore.
I'm already feeling a bit overwhelmed.
Don't worry, it's all part of the adventure. The ICA website has all the info you need. Documents like your passport, proof of funds, medical reports, and some specific forms. They've made the process pretty straightforward, actually.
Okay, visa sorted. What about the big one, accommodation, dorms, apartments? What are the options?
That's where things get interesting. Most universities in Singapore offer on-campus housing, which is awesome for immersing yourself in student life, meeting people, experiencing that campus vibe. But if you want more independence or a different kind of living experience, there are tons of off-campus apartments and housing options too.
So there's something for everyone. Whether you're a social butterfly who loves dorm life or someone who needs their peace and quiet. But how do you even start looking for housing in a totally new country?
That's where your research skills come in handy. Look at online forums, connect with alumni networks, join Facebook groups for current and former students. Those platforms are full of info. They'll give you firsthand insights on everything, from the best neighborhoods to what rent usually costs.
It's like having a virtual network of advisors helping you out. This is starting to feel less like just studying and more like a big adventure. You're not just learning stuff. You're experiencing a new culture, meeting people from everywhere, building a global network.
Studying abroad is so much more than just academics. It's about personal growth, immersing yourself in a new culture, and stepping outside your comfort zone. Our sources really stress how important it is to embrace this opportunity and engage with Singapore's diverse culture.
So soak it all in, right? Explore the city, try new foods, learn about the local customs, and make the most of this experience.
Exactly. It's about broadening your horizons, expanding your perspective, becoming a global citizen.
Speaking of broadening horizons, our sources talk a lot about thinking about your career even before you go to Singapore. Why is that so important?
It's about making the most of your investment. You're putting time, effort, money into this MS program, and you want to make sure it pays off in the long run.
It's about being strategic and proactive, not just letting things happen to you.
Right. Singapore's got this amazing job market, especially in tech, finance, and data science. So by researching those industries, networking with people, and going to career fairs, you're setting yourself up for success.
So it's not just about showing up. It's about being ready to grab those opportunities. But let's be real for a sec. Any insider tips for landing those awesome jobs in Singapore? Is it all about internships, networking, or is there some secret formula?
Well, there's no magic formula, but building a solid network while you're studying is crucial.
Networking, we hear it all the time, but what does it actually look like when you're studying abroad?
It's about putting yourself out there. Go to industry events, connect with alumni, use the career services at your university. Don't underestimate just talking to people, sharing your goals, and learning from their experiences.
So be a sponge, soak up info, and build those genuine connections. What about internships? Are those a must-do for getting a job in Singapore?
Internships are great for getting practical experience and making those connections we talked about. Our sources suggest reaching out to companies that match your interests and looking for internships even before you get to Singapore.
So be proactive, Show initiative, demonstrate your passion, and make it clear you're serious about building a career there.
Exactly. You want to show off your skills and that you're committed to working in Singapore.
Okay, so we've covered being strategic about your career, but let's not forget about the cost again. We talked about tuition and living expenses, but are there other ways to make it more affordable besides those scholarships?
For sure, remember, those scholarships are just the beginning. There's a whole bunch of financial assistance out there, from government scholarships to university grants and even external funding options.
It sounds like there's a lot to explore, but can be a bit overwhelming. Any tips for navigating all of that?
Start early and don't give up. Don't just rely on Google searches. Reach out to scholarship providers directly, go to webinars, and talk to the financial aid offices at universities. They're there to help you.
So be your own advocate, ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask for help. It's amazing how much we've learned just by diving into these sources. We've gone from dreaming about studying MS in Singapore to understanding how to apply what it takes to move there and even how to plan for a successful career.
It really shows how important it is to make informed decisions by taking the time to research, understand the details, and arm yourself with knowledge. You're taking control of your future and increasing your chances of success.
Totally agree. But we're not done yet. We've got more to uncover, including some insights from leading experts and some fascinating data that shows just how much influence Singapore has in the global education world. Stick with us as we continue our deep dive into studying MS in Singapore. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of studying MS in Singapore, and you definitely won't want to miss these last few insights. We've talked about the personal journeys and the practical stuff, but let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture. Our sources have all this cool data about international students in Singapore. Did you know there are over 55,000 international students studying there right now?
That's a huge number. It really shows how much global appeal Singapore has as an education hub. It's a sign they're doing something, right?
Yeah, it's not just a random thing, it's a trend we're seeing all across Asia.
You're right. It shows how Asia is rising as a global center for higher education, and Singapore is leading the way, attracting students from all corners of the world.
They're not just keeping up, they're setting the bar high. It's fascinating how Singapore is becoming this major player in the global education scene.
And it's not just about attracting any students. It's about attracting the best minds, the ones who are shaping the future. We've heard from consultants and advisors, but our sources also mention some real heavy hitters in the education world. People like Dr. Rahul Kordata, a well-known higher education strategy expert, and even Bridget Terry Long, the dean of Harvard Graduate School of Education.
Wow, that's impressive. It's not every day you see Harvard giving props to Singapore. What are these experts saying about Singapore's education system?
Well, Dr. Tordata has written a lot about the unique advantages Singapore offers international students, especially the close partnerships between universities and industries. He says Singapore really focuses on developing practical skills, so graduates aren't just book smart, they're ready to work.
It's that bridge we talked about before, connecting what you learn in class with what's needed in the real world.
Exactly, and Dean Long's perspective is really interesting. She leads one of the most prestigious education institutions in the world, and she's recognizing the growing influence of Asian universities like those in Singapore. It's a shift in the education landscape that we should all be paying attention to.
It's like the world is realizing that amazing education isn't only found in Western universities. Singapore is showing that innovation and excellence can come from anywhere.
It's a wake-up call for those traditional education powerhouses, a sign that they need to step up their game.
Okay, so we've got these big-name experts sharing their thoughts, but let's bring it back down to earth. I'm a big believer in learning from people who've actually been there, done that. Our sources highlight the value of connecting with alumni networks, attending webinars, and even checking out online forums to get insights from current and former students. Why is that kind of peer-to-peer learning so valuable?
It's about getting the real story, the unfiltered perspective. University websites and brochures can make things look perfect, but it's the students' personal experiences that give you the true picture.
It's like reading those online reviews before you book a hotel or try a new restaurant. You want to hear from people who've actually been there.
Exactly. They can tell you about how tough the classes are, what the social life is like, how much things cost, the challenges, the good stuff, all the things you won't find in a fancy brochure.
It's about getting that inside scoop, those little details that help you make a smart decision.
Yeah, platforms like LinkedIn and Reddit have become so useful for students thinking about studying abroad. You can find discussions about specific universities' programs, even professors. It's a treasure trove of real info.
That's a great tip. Don't just stick to the official sources. tap into what other students are saying now, some of our sources go even further and share case studies of students who finished their MS in Singapore. It's like getting a sneak peek into what your life could be like. For example, there's a story about a computer science grad from NUS who decided to prioritize personal growth over a traditional career path at a big tech company. It's a different kind of success story.
Yeah, it challenges that idea that studying abroad is only about getting a high-paying job at a famous company. It's about exploring different options, pushing yourself, and defining success on your own terms. This particular graduate decided to follow his passion for social entrepreneurship. He used his experience from his MS to start a company that's trying to solve social problems in his community.
That's really inspiring to see how an MS can be a starting point for something so meaningful.
It reminds us that your MS journey doesn't have a set destination. It's about making your own path and using what you've learned to make a positive impact.
So we've explored the why, the how, the what, and the who of studying MS in Singapore. We've looked at the numbers, heard from experts, and even walked in the shoes of real students. It's been quite a journey. But as we wrap up, what are the key takeaways for our listeners, people who are seriously thinking about taking this leap?
If we connect all the dots, the message is clear. Studying MS in Singapore is an investment in your future. But it's not just about getting ahead in your career. It's about growing as a person, experiencing a new culture, and expanding your horizons. It's about gaining a global perspective and developing the skills you need to thrive in a world that's more connected than ever.
It's challenging for sure, but the rewards are huge. It's about pushing yourself beyond what you're comfortable with and embracing the unknown.
Exactly. It's about how you change when you step outside your familiar world and immerse yourself in a new culture, a new learning environment, a new way of thinking.
So here's a final thought for our listeners. Imagine yourself a year from now, you finish your MS in Singapore. What doors have opened? What impact have you made? What adventures have you had? This isn't just about academics, it's a life changing experience waiting to happen if this deep dive has sparked your interest. Don't let that fire die out. Explore the resources we talked about, university websites, scholarship databases, even reach out to Let's Study if you need some guidance. You've got the knowledge now. Take that next step. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, keep diving deep.